We've decided to move. Move? I was perplexed by the sudden announcement from Joseph. We've been looking for a while now, you know. This house is in a good location, but it's old, right? It's too embarrassing to invite friends over. Plus, everyone feels like they have to walk on eggshells because of Mia. The eldest son and his wife speak their mind freely. Apparently, they're moving to a high-rise apartment. When I ask where they're moving to, Lily responds with a sarcastic smile. We don't give out our address to strangers. Her words are like a slap in the face. After all, I don't want anything to do with them. But regardless of Lily, Joseph is my son, and Matthew is my husband. When I ask what they mean by strangers, Joseph begins, Dad's planning to divorce Mom. Divorce? Yeah, Dad's got his eye on some woman. She's average looking but younger and nicer than Mom. I knew I was being taken advantage of by Matthew and Joseph for household chores, but I never imagined it was to this extent. My fists clench in anger. I can feel my blood boiling. I want them out of my life, now. Then it's divorce for the part-time husband. At my words, Lily covers her mouth, and Matthew freezes. Old woman talking in her sleep. Joseph seems clueless about the situation. Let them regret their decision later. Crying and apologizing won't change a thing. I will never forgive them. I am Mia, 54 years old. I've been married to Matthew for almost 30 years now. Matthew is unreliable and tends to leave things to others, but he's broad-minded and respects what I want to do. That's why I decided to marry him. A few years after our marriage, our eldest son, Joseph, was born. Matthew was overjoyed when Joseph was born. Although child-rearing was left up to me, I hoped that becoming a dad would make him a bit more reliable. For a while after the birth, I harbored this faint hope, but Matthew never changed. Hey, he's crying! Every time Joseph cried, Matthew would call me as if it were someone else's problem. In the beginning, I tried to persuade Matthew patiently. Look, Joseph seems so happy when you hold him. You're a great dad. I praised him, even if it was just for holding Joseph a few times a day. I hoped it would boost his confidence as a dad. But it didn't work out as I had hoped. I'm not cut out for this. Mia's better at it. Matthew pushed both household and child-rearing duties onto me. I'm going back to work. Can't you help out a bit? I can't do it all by myself. I protested several times, but Matthew always responded as if it were a given. I trust you, Mia. I'm doing my job too. I'm bearing with it even though it's tough. Household and child-rearing should be done by whoever is better at it. Matthew always had a way of shirking responsibility and leaving everything to me. It's not that I'm naturally good at it, I just got better with practice. Despite trying everything, Matthew never changed. Joseph grew up without issue, got a job, and moved out. At that time, I felt more relief than loneliness. I was relieved that I now had one less person to take care of. Thankfully, my career was also going well. Matthew still didn't do any housework, but by then, I had grown accustomed to it. Years later, Matthew had some trouble at work, but we were living our lives together, just the two of us. It was relatively peaceful, I think. Then, one day, out of the blue, I'm getting married, Joseph says. Joseph was 24 at the time of his marriage. It felt a bit early, but since he was serious about his work, we were fully in celebration mode. When Joseph first brought his fiancée, Lily, to meet us, we were thrilled. Welcome, we're so happy. Let's get along well from now on. Yes, please take care of me. Lily was a clear and bright, good girl. Joseph's workplace and apartment were far from our house, so we wouldn't meet often, but I hoped we could get along well when we did. I was the only one getting carried away. It was Joseph's words that snapped me back to reality. We're going to live here together. It sounded more like a decision than a consultation, and I was taken aback. Living here? Why? You're newlyweds. What about work? I quit my job. My boss was a jerk, so I'm planning to look for something around here. There must be plenty of opportunities. I was more panicked by his carefree attitude than anything else. Is Lily okay with this? Living with your mother-in-law right after getting married is something I'd definitely avoid. Plus, having an unemployed husband suddenly must be unsettling. Worried, I asked, but Lily's calm and unexpected response came back. I'm not good at housework, so this works out for me. It felt like she had beaten me to the punch. This was as good as declaring she wouldn't do any housework. I have my own circumstances. I can't take on everything. For both our sakes, it would be better to reconsider living together. I protested to my eldest son and his wife multiple times, but they were set on moving in, and so we ended up living together. Living together was, in a way, exactly as I had imagined. First, a little after they moved in, Joseph somehow landed a job. The salary wasn't high, but it was close to our house. Soon after, Lily also started working part-time. With both of them securing some income, I felt relieved, but there was a problem. As expected, I was left to handle all the household chores alone. Cooking, laundry, cleaning, shopping, the list is endless. I leave the house earliest in the morning and return the latest, yet no one else seems to lift a finger. Mom, I'm hungry. What's for dinner? Joseph asks while fiddling with his phone. Is tonight's menu something quick? Lily adds, flipping through TV channels. Just after returning home from overtime, this couple had the nerve to say such things to me. I guess I was being taken for granted. After all, Lily is part-time and has more time at home and more free time than me. She usually returns home before evening. At the very least, I wish she'd take care of preparing dinner. It was hard to say, but I decided to speak up. For Matthew and me, we'll manage on our own. Could you at least prepare your own meals? Lily frowned and looked at me as if I were speaking another language. Then she said something unbelievable. Why do I have to do it? For a moment, I was taken aback. Why should someone need a reason to cook their own food? Confused, I stated the obvious. Well, because you get home earlier. Lily seemed dissatisfied, glaring at me with a look of disbelief. Just because I get home early doesn't mean I'm not tired. Why would you say something so terrible to me, just resting after coming home? It felt like talking to an alien. I wanted to throw her words right back at her. In fact, I did. That's funny because I'm tired too. Lily remained unimpressed, tilting her head. So what? Excuse me? Even if you're tired, isn't it a mom's job to push through for her kids? Why are you pushing that responsibility onto me? Such nonsense. What age kids are we talking about? I'm not asking her to cook for someone else's children. I'm asking for Lily and her husband Joseph to prepare their own meals. If Joseph were home earlier, I'd ask him, but Lily is overwhelmingly more available. I never thought she'd refuse to cook for herself and her husband. Maybe I spoiled them too much. Reflecting on this, I decided to be a bit stricter than before. Afterwards, I kept reminding Lily and Joseph to do household chores, not just cooking, but they showed no signs of change. My problem is acting whenever there's something to be done. Maybe it's my personality, but I can't just leave things be. Thanks to that, I'm pushing my no longer young body to its limits, juggling work and household chores. At this rate, I might collapse someday. Desperate, I even consulted Matthew. I'm not involved. Good luck. But as expected, no one was willing to change, leaving me no choice but to do everything myself. One day, fed up with the daily grind, I came home from work to find the room slightly tidier than usual. Looking closer, I noticed the absence of my eldest son and his wife's clothes and bags that usually littered the floor. How unusual. Had Joseph or Lily cleaned up? Half surprised, half delighted, I opened the living room door to find Joseph standing right in front of me. Wow, you startled me. I'm home. Without even a welcome back, Joseph immediately told me, We've decided to move out. Move out? As I stood there bewildered, Lily appeared with a smug smile beside Joseph. The two exchanged a look and laughed. It was an unpleasant feeling. We've been looking for a while now. You know, this house is in a good location, but it's old, right? It's too embarrassing to have friends over. Plus, everyone feels awkward around Mia. What do you mean by that? After all, they were the ones who moved in without asking us. I had opposed it numerous times. Once we started living together, they didn't contribute to the living expenses or do any housework. After all their freewheeling, they have the nerve to complain about the house? I was furious. I had a lot I wanted to say, but I tried not to get emotional. Move out if you want. I couldn't be happier, but I won't tolerate you disrespecting this house. Apologize. This house was originally my family home, filled with memories of my parents. It might be old, but that doesn't give them the right to be embarrassed by it. Lily, half laughing as if my anger was amusing, said, "No way, we're not mocking it. Just stating facts. Wow, Mia, your paranoia is extreme. Isn't it hard living like that?" I felt like I was about to explode with anger. Why does she provoke me so? The way you're speaking is the mockery. Oh, scary. Lily feigned fear and hid behind Joseph. Looking at Joseph, he sighed as if exasperated. My anger grew, but I clenched my teeth to endure. It's because you're like this that we decided to move, always nagging and irritated. I couldn't let that go. Am I to blame? It's because you leave everything to others no matter how many times you're told. You never clean up after yourselves and always make unreasonable demands. It's only natural to get irritated under such circumstances. I'm not your housekeeper. But your mom, right? A mom is supposed to take care of her kids. It's her duty. Lily said something similar before. Do you even realize how old you are? Acting entitled when you're fully grown adults. My voice involuntarily rose. I couldn't stand their entitlement, acting like they had rights because they were children. Oh, scary. Going through menopause, huh? Well, whatever. Anyway, we're moving to a high-rise apartment, somewhere you could never afford to live in your whole life. Joseph looked smug, but I had a pressing question. A high-rise apartment? For the past few months, the couple hadn't been paying living expenses. They could have saved that money. However, Lily and Joseph weren't high earners. It seemed unlikely they could afford a high-rise apartment in just a few months. Where did you get such money? As if he had been waiting for my question, Joseph proudly responded, From Dad. Matthew? Yeah, we're planning to get support from Dad. The three of us, me, Lily, and Dad, will live there. I couldn't keep up with the developments, and before I could interject, Joseph happily continued. When we asked Dad, he agreed right away. It's a shame, after so many years together, he prefers his young son and daughter-in-law over an old woman. This was honestly a shock. Nearly 30 years of marriage with Matthew, and I thought we had been getting along well until Joseph was born. Since then, we had gradually drifted apart, and recently our conversations had dwindled. I never expected them to plan on leaving with the eldest son and his wife without telling me. What will you do? Try to stop Dad? Well, I don't think you'd stand a chance. Seeing Joseph's cheerful voice and face, something inside me snapped. I had endured because they were family. I accepted the unreasonable, albeit grudgingly. Maybe I had hoped that, if I kept pointing it out, they would change someday. I spoiled my child too much. He will never change. And Matthew, who, despite being Dad, dumped all responsibility for Joseph on me. I realized expecting anything from him was futile. When are you moving? Actually, we've already moved everything. The new appliances and furniture are all set up. It seems the plan had progressed without my knowledge. Is that so? You mentioned an apartment, but where are you moving to? The apartment is... Stop! Lily, with a high-pitched voice, cut off Joseph's attempt to reveal the address. Joseph, you shouldn't. We're going to be strangers to Mia from now on. Lily then turned to me, stating clearly, We won't be giving out our address to strangers. What do you mean? While I don't want anything to do with them, Lily aside, Joseph is my child and Matthew is my husband. Seeing my confused expression, Lily showed her biggest smile yet. Joseph, why don't you tell her? Prompted by Lily, Joseph began. Dad says he wants to divorce you. Divorce? Yeah, Dad's found someone else. She's average looking, but younger and nicer than you. He's completely smitten and doing all he can for her. Thinking about it, divorce makes more sense than separation, especially if there's another woman involved. I was aware I was being taken advantage of by Matthew and Joseph for household chores, but I never imagined the extent of the insult. My fists clenched in anger. I could feel my blood boiling. I wanted them out immediately. At that moment, the living room door opened and Matthew appeared with a puzzled look, seemingly just returned home. What's with this heavy atmosphere? What happened? Looking back and forth between me and Joseph, Joseph cheerfully responded, Welcome back, Dad. Just telling Mom everything. Ugh. Matthew looked away awkwardly when our eyes met. Unlike Joseph, who seemed gleeful without any doubts, Matthew appeared somewhat guilty. Or is there another reason? Moving out, I hear? And you want a divorce? Yeah, Joseph and them. They say it's for the best for both of us. Huh. I don't have any man in mind, though. Well, that's... Despite talking freely behind my back, Matthew's attitude changes in front of me. His indecisive, people-pleasing nature will probably never change. I wanted to throw more sarcasm his way, but there was something more important to do first. With things as they are, we need to proceed with their plan before they change their minds. So you're moving out, right? Then let's get the divorce papers sorted out today. No, that's... Right, let's do that, Matthew. Yes, let's get the bothersome stuff out of the way quickly. Matthew seemed hesitant, but urged by the eldest son and his wife, we both filled out the divorce application and headed to the city hall together. I intended to go alone, but... We can't have you just pretending to submit it, said Joseph, so we all went together. Holding the divorce application in my hand, submitting this means divorce. It's a relief, yet a complex feeling, considering the past 30 years. Matthew was silent, his expression unreadable. Only the eldest son and his wife looked refreshingly happy. So, we're strangers now. Thanks for everything up to now. Even though it hasn't been submitted yet, Joseph exclaimed cheerily, Even after divorce, Joseph is still my child. Are you okay with cutting ties like this? Yeah, of course. We wouldn't want to bother you with care or anything later. I was astounded by his words. No matter how much trouble I might face in the future, I would never rely on those who've caused me such humiliation. It's outrageous. Finally, at the after-hours service window, I turned to Matthew one last time. I'm going to submit it now. Yes. Disgusted and irritated by Matthew's shaken demeanor, I handed the divorce application to the clerk. From this moment on, we would be strangers. I took a deep breath and said, Then it's divorce from the part-time husband. I heard a stir from the eldest son and his wife behind me, but I didn't look back. The clerk quickly reviewed the application and accepted it. If there are any issues, they'll contact us later. I think it'll probably be fine, though. Well, I have places to be. As I was about to part ways with Matthew and the eldest son and his wife, Lily grabbed my arm. Mia, what did you mean by what you said earlier? Lily asked with a strange smile. Understandable after hearing such things. While understanding her feelings, I pretended not to know what she was talking about. Oh, Lily, calling me Mia as if we're still familiar. We're strangers now, right? So what about earlier? I said coldly, and Lily looked at me tentatively. A rare look of uncertainty on her face. Her expression made it clear, even without confirmation, that she had heard my earlier words. She just didn't want to believe it and came to double-check. They would realize their mistake and surely regret it later. Thinking this, gave me a slight sense of relief, and my cheeks relaxed into a smile. So about that part-time thing, Lily stammered, and I responded with a beaming smile. Oh, Matthew? I've kept it a secret, but he's been working part-time at a grocery store. Admirable, isn't it? Matthew, standing behind Lily, froze with wide eyes. No way. And Lily muttered in disbelief. Naturally, nobody would expect Matthew, who left the house every morning, to be working part-time. In reality, he spent his mornings walking or at the job center, only working part-time from the afternoon to evening. Lily, shocked and despairing, and Matthew, whose world had just come crashing down, were in stark contrast to Joseph, who was casually laughing. Old woman talking nonsense. He must think I'm lying, casually insulting me. Part-time? Dad? No way. Oh, but it's true, isn't it, Matthew? Since Matthew retired last year, he had been reluctant to work and had been unemployed for a long time. I convinced him to start the part-time job about half a year ago. The eldest son and his wife, having moved in later, were unaware of this. Matthew's pride kept it a secret until they found out. Well, yeah. Really? You can't be serious. Sweating, Matthew nods. Seeing this, it seems they finally understand the situation. The eldest son and his wife turned pale and looked down. They should regret only after facing reality. I can't even feel sympathetic anymore. These people looked down on me after using me and tried to sever ties. I don't care what happens to them or if they face hardships. As I was about to leave, silently, Joseph called out to stop me. So how have you been managing all this time? How could you afford living expenses for several months? You're the one who didn't contribute to the living expenses, and now you say this? I'm so astounded I can't immediately find words. I managed to say, I've been earning the money. Joseph looks incredulous, blinking in disbelief. What? Impossible. There's no way Mom could support a household of 4 on her own. Do you know that I've been working from morning to night? How can you say it's impossible? But Mom's a woman, and even if she's a full-time employee, her income would be limited, right? What, you're earning that much? Yes. Since becoming an executive, I've been receiving a considerable amount as executive compensation. Executive? Joseph looks around, unable to believe. It must be hard for him to accept that I, whom he looked down upon, was an executive. Relying on Dad, who turned out to be working part-time, they underestimated Mom, who actually had a high income. If only you had told us! Didn't Dad know? Yes, you and your father always rely on others too quickly. That's why I didn't say anything. I see. But this is a relief. What is? Joseph pats my shoulder with a smile. Dad can go back to that house and Mom can come to our apartment. What? Such a convenient narrative. Now that they know I have money, they abandon Dad and try to leech off Mom? Thinking this is my child makes me dizzy with shame and anger. How could you think that's possible? Plus, I just confirmed with you, didn't I? We're okay being strangers from now on, right? But then who's going to pay? Not just the apartment, but we've bought all the appliances and furniture on loans. Joseph looks at me, pleading with a trembling voice. How long do you plan to be a child? Take care of your own mess. If you're determined, you can make it work. For instance, if Lily worked more, even that would increase the income. Glancing sideways, Lily feels shocked and trembles. Her face turns pale. No way. Joseph collapses to his knees, finally understanding his situation. Next to him, Lily also crouches down, but then seems to have an idea. Right, the severance pay. Her eyes sparkling, Lily tells Joseph, Matthew quit just a few months ago, right? Then he must have received severance pay. Joseph realizes upon hearing Lily's words. Indeed, that makes sense. With Dad's years of service, he should have received a decent amount. Right? If they get divorced, all that money would be Matthew's, right? That's a relief. That's right, it's Dad's, our money. The eldest son and his wife are elated. Do they think the world revolves around them? Usually, income after marriage is considered marital property, so it would be subject to distribution of property. Probably. What? What are you talking about? It's Dad's money. It's terrible. How greedy can you be? We're already divorced, right? Strangers. And yet, you talk about shared property and taking the money? The eldest son and his wife are indignant, as if it's unthinkable. They'd never reflect on themselves, but freely express their opinions. I've grown increasingly irritated dealing with them. Taking a deep breath to calm myself, I said clearly, "Most of the severance pay is already gone." What? Why? Matthew only worked at his last company for a few years. There wasn't much severance pay to begin with. Matthew frequently changed jobs due to various reasons, such as the work being too hard or poor relationships with colleagues. In short, he couldn't stick with anything long term. Like father, like son. Do you have any other savings? Even mom's savings would be subject to distribution of property, right? Your freeloading these past few months has significantly drained it. Plus, depending on the situation, Matthew might even claim compensation. Surprised to be suddenly mentioned, Matthew cautiously opens his mouth. Compensation? Why? You were supporting a younger woman, weren't you? If there was infidelity, that's considered cheating. Even if not, it could still disadvantage you in a divorce, and if you dipped into the savings, you'll have to repay that. Matthew is trembling. Upon closer inspection, his eyes are slightly teary. It seems certain he's guilty of something. So Dad is almost broke. It seems so. The eldest son and his wife exchange glances while trembling. Then, Joseph suddenly grabs Matthew by the chest. It's your fault. How could you deceive us? Pretending to live with us without a penny to your name? Matthew brushes off Joseph's hand. Quiet. You were the ones who invited me. Let's live together, enjoy a luxurious life in the apartment. I just agreed. Who would want to live with a penniless old man? Now, what are we supposed to do about the apartment payments? An ugly dispute between parent and child had begun. Both were relying on each other's money, leading to this misunderstanding. It's absurd. Well, I have nothing to do with this. I'll contact you through a lawyer again. As I waved my hand, Lily approached me with a desperate look. You can't be serious. You're just gonna leave it like this? They are Mia's ex-husband and son. Don't make me say it again. We're strangers now. Don't call me Mia. But you were the ones who said it first, remember? We're strangers. Don't worry. I won't even bother remembering your address. We're strangers after all. I thought I heard Lily shouting, "Wait," but assuming it was my imagination, I left. Although proving the affair was difficult, Matthew's mismanagement of funds was discovered, and the remaining savings became mine. The eldest son and his wife couldn't afford the apartment payments, and soon moved to a cheaper apartment. Not only was the move costly, but it seems the furniture and appliances were quite expensive, and now they're struggling with monthly payments. Lily has been trying hard by increasing her part-time work, but it's not enough, and she's considering working at a club. Furthermore, the couple has been fighting constantly since then, and divorce seems likely. As for Matthew, the young woman he was courting married someone else easily. After all I did for her. He confronted the girl, which led to the police being called and a big fuss. He must have learned his lesson because he then contacted me, seeking reconciliation. Only Mia really understands me. Drunk on his delusions, he begged. So, I simply replied, "No, I don't want to understand," and blocked his number. He can delude himself all he wants, but I wish he wouldn't involve me. The biggest reason I married Matthew was because he let me be free. But after 30 years, it wasn't freedom at all. He was only fine as long as he wasn't disadvantaged. I guess that's why he always refused to get involved in any trouble, including parenting. He didn't want to disrupt his own routine. There's one thing I'm thankful to Matthew and Joseph for. Their actions made me endure a lot of inconvenience and discomfort. Thanks to that, now that I'm alone, I feel incredibly liberated and free. I never want to see them again, but I'm proud of how I handled that time and believe I've grown from it. From now on, I want to take care of myself and live the rest of my life doing what I want, as long as I don't bother anyone.